Well, that is going to be a bit embarrassing. Hello everybody, and I am first of all sorry, because this is the first time I'm doing something like this, and I know my microphone quality is not very good, and I really apologize for that. But I have decided to, since in the past year or so I have become a bit less shy to talk into a microphone, to analyze the Western Star for American Truck Simulator. A good looking truck in my opinion, but it has some problems, which is not necessarily the truck's fault, but that is, I believe, the problem with the American trucking industry in general. And to give a little bit of context, even though, as I'm sure everyone can hear from my accent, I am not American, but I did live in the USA for nearly 9 years, and I got to fulfill my dream. Why did I shut off my engine? Of becoming a truck driver, driving American trucks for about 3 years. And I never drove this truck because it just came out, and I've been living in Europe, back in Europe, for the past 3 years, 2.5 years, give or take. So I never got to drive this truck, but I did get to drive a few trucks that are currently in this game. And I just think that the American trucking business in general has quite a few problems. I think I'll sleep there instead.
安全運転を心がけましょう。
And the problem is reflected in the trucks. The biggest thing about this truck is, of course, the digital dashboard. And I am a big fan. You're very loud, GPS. I am a big fan of science fiction. I love spaceships, and I really love all sorts of science fiction. And as a fan of science fiction, I've always loved to see what part is the science and what part is the fiction. In other words, what's realistic and what isn't. And I think the biggest problem with people in general, is that they have this fantasy dream. And I would like to refer to an amazing YouTuber who goes by the name of Adam something, and he refers to something that he calls the I think he called it the MCU fever dream, the Marvel Cinematic Universe fever dream, which is when you have in, or technically either present time or near future, a few years into the future, all of this very high-tech, well, technology, all of these advanced gadgets that seem futuristic, and a lot of people think that that's achievable, or that we already have that kind of technology, such as cloaking devices, or something that really bothers me in a lot of science fiction are those 3D heads-up display that is touched in mid-air by people. That doesn't exist, but a lot of people think that it might. I don't think it will. I am going to lower the game volume. 20%, please. And that, I really think, falls in the fiction category. And how is that reflected in this truck? Well, again, it's the dashboard. Is that everything is going futuristic. And again, I really love starships. I play a lot of Elite Dangerous, for example, and all of these ships have those display and everything. But see, the difference between a video game and reality is that, well, in a video game, this dashboard will never break. It never will. It will always function as intended. The GPS will always function as intended. But the thing is, if this dashboard breaks, then you can't see anything. Everything will disappear. If your dashboard goes black, well then that's it. You can't see anything. which is also my problem with the camera mirrors in the new DAF in Euro Truck Sim 2. Okay, fine, I understand they reduce drag because there is less surface area in contact with, well, the atmosphere, and it causes less air resistance. I get it, but I really do not think that these mirrors are going to really affect that much. I mean, probably one might argue if you're talking about several million kilometers or miles driven, okay, fine, maybe, but I really don't think it will overall cause that much difference if you save, let's say, 20 gallons, or which is what, 75 liters of fuel over the period of 15 years. I really don't think that's going to make much difference. I don't want to make a right because for some reason, even though you stop, sometimes you still get a ticket. And in the game, like I said, it doesn't bother me though. As soon as this delivery is over, I'm going to switch to another truck because when I first saw it, when I first saw the interior, I thought, I don't like it, but I give it the benefit of the doubt, and I drove it for a bit for 30,000 miles, and I'm sorry, I don't like it because well, I don't want to drive in a game a truck that I wouldn't drive in real life, and I would not drive this truck in real life. I would not drive any truck with a digital dashboard in real life, because at least if you have a regular dashboard, if, let's say, one gauge stops working, then the rest of the dashboard still works. But here, if the dashboard goes out, then that's it, and you can't drive. So you can't go to a shop. You will need to get towed, because I really doubt that an engineer will come and fix your dashboard in whichever truck stop or rest area you are broken down at. So you will need to be towed, and then they will need to fix it. And in addition of having your truck being fixed, you also need to pay for towing services, so in the end it will be more expensive. Well, in contrast, with a non-digital dashboard, you can just drive to a truck shop and be like, hey, my fuel gauge is not working, please fix it. I've driven there myself, I don't need to be towed. And the point I was making with the mirrors is, if your camera mirror stops working, it's not just a piece of glass that you need to replace. You need to inspect well, the camera, and if it's a wire, then someone needs to pull the wires that runs from the camera up there along the pillar and into your dashboard. So that person has to investigate what's over a meter, at least 1 meter of camera cable, just to see what's wrong, versus replaces a piece of broken mirror. And I just don't think that the fuel that you'll save with the reduced drag will be worth it. But that's my opinion. And you can't even tell me that I'm old school, because, well, first of all, I hate super truckers. I've met so many super truckers in real life. Back then, I didn't have a beard, so I looked a lot younger, and a lot of people just assumed that I was a newbie and that I didn't know what I was doing because I was driving a Freightliner Cascadia, which, by the way, I hate it. And I do like it in the game, but in real life I had the base trim with the cheap interior plastic, and I really hated it. But I'm here to talk about the Western Star. Yeah, I don't like this digital dashboard, and I just said that there is no non-digital option. When it comes to the rest of the interior, well, it's nice and it's clean, and it looks really comfortable, but I also don't like the rear so much with the seats. I do like this table that can go down by a few inches so that you can then lower the bed from the back. I like all that, but I don't like the look of the seats. I don't know. They don't look nice. They don't look very pretty. No, they look more like a porta potty toilet than anything. And that TV in front of the I mean, I understand a lot of truck drivers watch TV. Personally, I never did. I had a laptop and I just watched Netflix on my laptop. It blocks that window and it gives this air of claustrophobia. And that is actually what prevents me from driving the Peterbilt 379 in the game, which I drove in real life and which was my second favorite to the Kenworth, the T680. But I didn't like the Peterbilt because it didn't have windows in the back. And also, another thing that I don't like about this digital dashboard is it... I don't know. When I first saw the digital dashboard on the Freightliner Cascadia, I thought it didn't look finished. I thought it looked a bit... And this I'm just nitpicking here. This is really pet peeve, but the fact that I have my trip info here and I have the oil level over here, I really wish I could personalize, because in real life you can use those buttons on either side of the steering wheel to personalize both of these individually. As you can tell, you've got these dots on the edges of the dashboard. Oh no, do I have to sleep? Oh yeah, I have to sleep. Oh yeah, I said I was going to sleep there. And I don't, the thing that is not good about all of this versus the problem with the trucking industry, something that I said 10 minutes ago, is this is because companies are being cheap. Super carriers, the really big trucking companies, are not willing to invest in driver training, which leads to accidents. And instead of spending money on driver training, because a lot of drivers quit before they even finish their first year, and therefore they see it as a financial loss, they instead, the trucking companies instead put all of these things in the trucks. Well, okay, there's some things that are good. Cruise control, that's good. Forward collision radar, hit and miss, and I'm going to talk about it. The reason is of why I hated the Freightliner Cascadia is, well, the truck first came out. It was brand new when I drove it, and it had the thing that read the speed limits out of the signs, but it was extremely dangerous. For example, on a lot of interstates, you would be driving through a city, and then it would say exit 45 miles per hour. Well, the truck would just read 45 miles per hour, and it would activate the automatic brakes. And I have had many times when another vehicle, maybe a car or a truck, have almost rear-ended me because my truck would slam on its brakes in the middle of the interstate. It doesn't... Well, actually, it's even worse that it was in a city, because it means that there's more traffic. And that is extremely dangerous. Could even be lethal. So instead, I had to floor the accelerator in order to override the cruise control while I was driving through a city. And American cities are big. Sometimes it can tell you up to 2 hours to drive through a city. And so for 2 hours I would need to floor the accelerator, completely neglecting the fact that there's a cruise control in the first place. And that's there because some truck drivers don't pay attention. Oh no. And so instead of training drivers to look for speed limit, or firing drivers that don't follow the speed limits, instead they included that system, which, yeah, in theory is good, but in reality I have nearly been in a deadly accident several times. Even if a truck rear-ends me, that could send me jackknifing, and I could end up hitting a barrier, or even worse, I could have been sent left into the incoming traffic, because I don't know if you've ever seen a truck accident. Some trucks are so heavy, they have so much momentum and inertia that when they hit the separating barriers, they go over it. Such as this infamous FedEx driver that lost control of its truck and went over the separating barrier while pulling a triple, which is what I'm pulling. And it's just so dangerous, and it's only there because companies are too cheap, or they just don't care enough. And all of these things in the truck, in the dashboard, all of these things, they're not necessary, and they make the trucks much more expensive. Another thing is, if you notice that I drive a more skeletal version of this truck. I don't have the wind deflectors. I even have exposed fuel tanks, and I don't have the what I call the deflector lip, the little wind deflector lip underneath my side, my steps and my front bumper. And the reason was because I never liked them in real life, because they're also just as stupid and just as dangerous, because they're made out of cheap plastic. And so that means that as soon as you go off-road, is that a four-way? No, it isn't. As soon as you go off-road and you hit the slightest of bump, you're going to hit it, and then it's going to get ripped out of your truck. Now, if it's on a small off-road place, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're, let's say, on the interstate, on a highway, and you hit a pothole, and that thing is removed, well, guess what? Not only are you back to not having good fuel economy, quote unquote, because the thing that you put to improve fuel economy has been removed, but now there's a piece of plastic on the road, so you've just created some pollution. And what's worse is, if it's on a highway, a truck, another truck or a car could hit it and send it flying. What if that hits a motorcyclist? The thing with motorcycles is, they're fun, but they're so dangerous to the driver. You are so vulnerable when you ride a motorcycle, and I know it because my father used to be a motorcyclist, and his best friend was killed while riding a motorcycle because of a driver who did not pay attention. And funnily enough, that could not have been avoided with any of this technology thing, because he made an illegal U-turn. He did not have a turn signal. And the only thing that would have prevented, quote unquote, that, or helped, is if he had a blind spot camera that would have activated on his GPS as soon as he turned it on. I've seen those cars. You have the GPS, but as soon as you turn on your turn signal, whichever side it is, then it activates the blind spot camera. Well, what's the point if he doesn't look? And also, what if the camera doesn't work? I've seen a lot of accidents where people trust not the camera, but the blind spot detector, such as what this truck has over here. It has a light that lights up when there's a vehicle in your blind spot. That's what this thing on the passenger side is. Obviously you can't see because it's dark. But I've seen a lot of accidents that happen when someone turns the turn signal, and let's say there's a small vehicle such as a motorcycle, and the light doesn't turn on. They think, okay, it's good, and then they turn without even bothering to turn their head to look over their shoulder. All of this technology, it was only meant to assist the driver, but a lot of people see it as if it was ultimate, and it always worked and it never fails. There's this story that I heard of a Uber driver who drove a Tesla, and he used the autopilot, and he took a nap while driving. And 40 miles per hour. He took a nap while driving, and it was on a two-lane highway, and there was a bicyclist on the side of the road. The car did not detect the bicyclist, and the car hit the bicyclist and killed him, because he just thought that this technology was flawless in every way and that it always worked no matter what, which it kind of does in this game, but it's just not how it works in real life. And there is actually a test. There is a video by a YouTuber, I think it's AP101. He does videos about American Truck Sim and Euro Truck Sim. Very good videos. And apparently in the game files, there's a code for for collision radar, the adaptive cruise control that adapts and has a following distance to the vehicle in front of you. But it works just like in real life. If you are taking a right turn on a 2-lane road and you're on the right lane, on the inside lane, and there's a vehicle on the outside lane, it will detect that vehicle. There is also this problem with this adaptive cruise control. Is there was this one time I think I was driving. I was driving somewhere in New England on a 2-lane road, small 2-lane highway, 45 miles per hour with a lot of hills and twists and turns. And I was at the bottom of a hill. I was about to go up, but the angle was so extreme that my forward collision radar detected the ground in front of me and slammed me on my brakes and sent a hard braking event, that what we call it, to my dispatcher and to the head of safety of my home terminal, which at the time was Phoenix, Arizona. And that slamming on my brake not only caused the car behind me to almost rear-end my truck, but it also killed my momentum. And so instead of keeping momentum to go up the hill and maybe end up at the top at 30-35 miles per hour, I was doing 10 miles per hour, which is what, 16 kilometers per hour uphill instead of, I think it's 45 kilometers per hour, because it just stopped me dead in my track at the bottom of the hill. That is something that is supposed to help me, but instead worked against me. The thing is, if you are a good driver, you don't need all of this technology. And I don't claim to be the best, not at all. I have done many mistakes, but I have always acknowledged those mistakes. That's what's important, is that when you make a mistake, the natural reaction of people is embarrassment, and so instead they will point at something to blame. But not me. If it is my fault, I will accept it no matter how embarrassing it is. And I've gotten a few tickets. Not speeding tickets, but I've gotten a few tickets, and I've actually been in a few accidents, but they were all on parking spots. And they were all because I wasn't paying attention. And every time I walked to the driver and I said, "I'm sorry, that was my fault." I've been pulled over a few times, but all the tickets that I ever had were overweight ticket at way stations. I've been pulled over while on the road a few times for not paying attention, and to all of the officers I said, "I am sorry, that was my fault, this is what I did wrong, this is what I should have done, I am sorry." And I didn't do this because I wanted to be a butt kisser. I meant it. I was taking responsibility for what I did. And I even told them, I will be paying any ticket that you give me because that was my fault and it was avoidable. I was just not paying attention. But every time they said, "You know what? I can tell that you're sorry. Just make sure that you drive carefully. So I'll just give you a warning." And again, I didn't do it because I didn't want to pay a ticket. I did it because that's just what you should do. You mess up, you accept responsibility. But because drivers are irresponsible and inattentive, we end up with all of this technology, which not only costs more, makes the trucks more expensive, it also gives you more trip to the repair shop, because everything that you see here will break at some point and will need to be replaced. In this game, it doesn't matter because everything always works. The only thing that happens is if your truck is too damaged, maybe your engine will shut off every now and then while you're driving. That's it. You're not going to wake up one morning with your dashboard 100% dark and a warning that says your dashboard is malfunctioning. Please press this button to be towed to the nearest truck shop, and then you have a little this little loading screen and a warning that says, "Oh, you are now late due to having to go to the shop, and your delivery is late and whatever." Because this is what happens in real life. Sometimes you wake up, your truck doesn't work, you have to be towed, and the less technology you have in your truck, the less often that is going to happen. So I don't like it. I mean, in the game it's alright, but I just don't like these kind of trucks because of these reasons. All of this can be avoided if you just know what you're doing, take responsibility, and you're not being a crappy driver. You pay attention. You don't text and drive. I mean, I don't claim to be the perfect driver neither, because I'm not in the slightest. But don't use your goddamn phone while you're driving. I have seen so many accidents because people were texting and driving. Most of them which end up deadly. And the thing is, people don't like serious topics. People always like to have fun and tell jokes and everything. And this kind of serious topic, people don't like. But that's the kind of thing that you should think about. When I was a driver, I used to watch the dashcam accidents, not because I enjoyed watching people getting T-boned by trucks at intersection, but because I would analyze it. I would say, who's at fault? Whose fault is it? How could this have been avoided? And 7 out of 10 accident is because the driver's not paying attention. And 2 out of 10 is because they just said screw it and floor it, and let's say they're trying to beat a red light or taking a curb too fast, which I have seen. I have seen a truck flip in front of me because the driver wanted to make up some time. Instead, he flipped his truck and probably lost his job, in addition of paying for towing services. Also the fire department, because he ripped open his fuel tanks and spilled diesel all over the road. The loss of the entire cargo. He was carrying tomatoes in an open top trailer and he spilled tomatoes all over the road. And I mean, all of this could have been avoided if he just accepted the fact that he was late. And instead, he was going to be billed for all of the things I just mentioned, plus losing his job. And maybe the next job he applies to will be like, oh, well, you flipped your truck. You're not trustworthy. One makes us think that you're not going to flip our truck. So I don't like this. It's a good truck. There's difference between it's not good and I don't like it. This is a good truck. It really is. I just don't like it because all of this, again, is not necessary if you know what you're doing and if you take responsibility. And yeah, I think this is where I'm going to end it, or else I'm just going to talk in circles. I'm just going to beat around the bush. This is basically it. Good truck, well designed, really pretty. I don't like it, which is different to it's not good. Though, yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's got a microwave. I like to think that this is a fridge. This is a little tray table, which is not necessary considering that there is an actual table here. Lots of storage, lots of headroom, and overall, it is a good truck. Just not something that I would drive. And yeah, these are my thoughts on the Western Star 57. Very pretty, but not my cup of tea. Well, I hope it was fun to watch. Like I said, this is actually the first time I'm doing this, actually talking and then going to upload it like this without actually playing with my friends, and I'm a bit nervous, so if you could deal with my voice and the quality of my microphone, I really appreciate. And I hope you have a good day.